just make your website fast. Nearly everywhere I go, or where I've been, people don't put enough time and effort towards it. It's not something that you're going to look at every day and say, hey, doesn't this homepage look great? Doesn't this landing page look amazing? Make your website fast and make sure you can instrument it so you understand what's happening actually when people get there.
It's the e-commerce master plan podcast, here to help you solve your marketing problems and grow your e-commerce business. Cutting through the hype to bring you inspiration and advice from the e-commerce sector and beyond. Here's your host, Chloe Thomas.
Hello and welcome. It's great to have you here. Thank you for hitting play and choosing to listen to one of our inspiring guests. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that I do love to do a little shout out sometime to someone who did something nice on social media or who got in contact about the show. And this is going to be one of those episodes. So huge thank you to Oliver Blackmore. Hello, Oliver, who wrote an epic review of our relatively recent Bird and Blend episode. So cool to get to read one of our listeners' thoughts on LinkedIn. So first off, thanks for listening, Oliver. Second, thanks for writing the post. And thirdly, thank you for tagging me in the post so I got to read your in-depth feedback on the episode too. So hello, Oliver. Thanks for listening. Now, in this episode, we're going big. We are talking to a business who do an awful lot of orders. They're in the B2B space. They are pure e-commerce. The person who we're talking to, the section of the business he works in is pure e-commerce mobile app. We will be discussing what it's like working in a business that large in terms of the fact he is what's called a product manager or works in product management. And in that instance, the product is the website itself. So we're talking about what that is and how they go about really focusing on performance and so forth. They've also done some very cool things with AI chatbots. So we will be going quite deep into that. There's also a few SEO tips and lots of other cool stuff. I think you're really going to love this episode. Now, two terms to know about before we go into this, because we mention them, but we don't explain them in the episode because I thought it'd be easier just to explain them up front to you all. First off, OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. And what that really means is that it's about people buying spare parts from the company who made the product in the first place. So, for example, buying BMW brake cables, not any old brake cables for your car, or in today's interview's example, buying an Electrolux water pump kit for your Electrolux steam oven. Okay. And then the other term is HVAC, which I had to Google before recording this, which stands for Heating, Ventilation and Air Conditioning. There we go. This one is super fascinating. I really enjoyed getting to chat with Paul, so I hope you enjoyed the episode and make sure you stick around for his top tips because they're really good too. Have you yet downloaded our ebook? To celebrate reaching episode 500, we've created an epic e-commerce success-focused ebook for you, packed with 500 top tips about how to make your e-commerce store more profitable, featuring the advice of many, many past guests alongside industry experts and many of you as well, our listeners. I've checked every single tip and organised the whole thing into sections for you, making it super easy to dip in and dip out and take inspiration as and when you need it. This ebook needs to be sat on your desktop or even printed and sat on your desk. Download your free copy right now at ecmp.info/ebook. Get 2024's most valuable e-commerce ebook now, ecmp.info/ebook. And now to introduce our special guest. Paul Hancox is the SVP of e-commerce at Partstown, a leading distributor of OEM food service, HVAC and residential appliance parts. It's a predominantly B2B e-commerce business selling via their custom website and mobile app. Based in the USA, they distribute spare parts to over 140 countries, and the parent company Partstown Unlimited had annual revenue of 2.5 billion, yes, the one with the B, everybody, in 2024 with 55% growth in HVAC alone. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Chloe. Nice to meet you.
Very cool to have you here on the podcast. I'm really interested to find out how you're doing what you're doing at Partstown. But first off, how did you yourself end up in e-commerce? And everyone, I got a sneak preview of this before we hit record. It's fascinating. So, Paul.
Yeah, I guess I would say I have a very non-traditional path into e-commerce. I grew up, if you like, in retail in the UK. I started out actually in Currys, of all places, Currys and Dixons. Moved from there into Staples, the office superstore. I was lucky enough to have a lot of jobs there with a lot of great people, and they see something in me that helped propel me or progress me through the organization. And I was there for about 15 years. But in the last year, I was asked by the leadership team to take control of the e-commerce site, and that kind of got me hooked. So if I'm honest, it was a pivotal moment that I didn't see, and I was quite lucky for them to ask, I guess. But it kind of whetted my appetite to think about something different. And I guess the something different in this example was the Staples US business. I didn't really know it or understand it at the time, but Staples US at that time, I think it was generating about 20 billion a year. I think 10 of that was coming from the e-commerce properties. So I kind of landed in the US about 13 years ago, not really knowing which way was up, and all the good things that come with transplanting oneself across the pond. But it was a real pivotal moment, and I just happened to be really lucky at the time I landed there. The company had hired a load of clever people out of eBay and Amazon, and plus their own people that had been there for a while. And I joined their product organization, which is really tasked with making customer enhancements and improvements to the website and whatnot. I very quickly moved coasts because it was too cold on the East Coast for our family. So we moved over to the West Coast, where people will say West Coast, best coast. But there I actually went into the mobile apps team. And again, for 3 or 4 years, I was lucky enough to be part of that team and eventually lead that team. So I was responsible for the B2B and B2C mobile apps and mobile websites that they had. Saving over 1 billion customers a year is both exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time. I can promise. I think back to we were doing Black Friday sales, and a couple of years before that, I didn't even really have a notion or a concept, and we were pulling down $20 to $30 million a day in revenue just in my platforms. So it was really, really sort of a good apprenticeship, if you like, into the puts and takes that you can expect there. I did that for a while. I became a green card holder, late in that tenure, and then I was approached by a company called Monotype, who own the world's largest collection, if you like, of font technology and font license. And I really went there to establish a product organization. So that's kind of, again, the things that need to happen on the website to make it more efficient, more fast, more useful, more relevant, right? I was there for about a couple of years, and then I actually went to Home Depot after that, with the scope and the scale kind of jumped again. That business, I think in the time I was there, was 142 billion in revenue. I was responsible for the special order applications in stores. So 2,000 touch points with customers, doing 2+ billion a year in revenue just from special orders alone. So anyone who's in the US will know what the Pro Desk is at a Home Depot store. All the software that ran there was kind of my team and my organization that was there. Then was approached to go to a company called Lennar, which builds homes in the US, and that's a $47 billion business, I think, with 52 divisions. So it's essentially 42 divisions and essentially 42 different ways of working. So again, I established a product team. That was interesting because I needed to hire 100 product managers in less than a year, which was interesting and challenging all in one, but I did. I'm not quite sure I did how I did it now on reflection, but it happened. It happened, and it was a thing. And it was a really, really super business, to be honest. Really inspirational leader there in Stuart Miller and his team. And then Partstown came calling about 2 years ago and said, "Hey, we've got this interesting opportunity for you if you want to come across and help us figure out what the future of our digital strategy could be or should be." Yeah, and I've been here for about 2 years now.
Wow.
Next month. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
See, there's so much I could ask you about that journey, and so much of it that's just kind of absolutely mind-boggling to me. But one of the things which really stands out is you talk about managing the product. And unlike most of the people I talk about in e-commerce, the product would be the inventory, the stock, the SKUs. But in this case, product is the website or the web property, the digital presence, and how we make that perform. First off, have I summarized that correctly?
Yes. Yeah, I'd say so. It can also be a feature, right? It can also be a big enough feature. So, for example, we might have a product manager over search because it's such an important part of a website that, it's specialized, right? So yeah, it can be a platform, it can be a website, or it can be it can be an important set of features.
And obviously, even though smaller businesses don't think of them as products, they should still be doing the same, and they don't have a single person managing it necessarily, but they should still be focusing on the key activities that you do. So what would you say that kind of drills down to? Is it understanding what the next developments are going to be, the numbers? What does a day-to-day role of a product manager in this sense look like?
Yeah, I think all of the above, right? Most product managers in an e-commerce business over in the US, for example, would be kind of obsessed with funnels and interactivity and customer research, right? Here's the thing I want to design. How is it going to be useful? Will it change the life or the work or the revenue streams that we have? How would I instrument that, and how would I, improve it? When we think about funnels here, really what we're saying is based on how people shop a website, there's a pattern and some behaviors which are kind of predictable and some less so, right? But you can instrument that behavior on a website to such an extent where you can see, hey, you at the top of the funnel, or before people add things to their shopping cart, you can actually see the things that are going wrong with your website. Because like most people, right, when people are designing or building things, it becomes their baby and they look at it and think it's wonderful, right? But then when you let that loose in the world and people start using it, that's when it really gets interesting in terms of usefulness and feedback and, loops that would actually inform you to tweak. Because when you look at a business like Partstown, we ship over 400,000 orders every quarter, right? We'll do, 32 million, sales a year in terms of, units. Small nuances matter, right? And there's some widely established stats, I think, that, Walmart and Google are put out in the world. A 1% move in conversion for your website, is real money. Sorry, 1 second percent improvement of speed on your website will deliver 1% improvement in conversion. And that's applicable to kind of every business, I would say. There's ebb and flows and puts and takes there when you swap that for consumers versus a B2B unit. But the general logic rings true. You make your website faster, for example, SEO gets better, and so does conversion.
So how do you, as the person overseeing a team of product managers, decide where to focus? Like the marketing manager would be like, am I going to put more budget into email or into Google ads? Where I think it's somewhat simpler because you've got experience, you've got the customer experience to think about, the flow through the website to think about, but also the speed functionality. So it must be a constant balancing act to work out where to focus.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, my typical playbook, in any business I've worked in, and especially here, was to, establish what some of those benchmark KPIs were, right? How people use the website and navigate through it. And generally, most people have an understanding of that in an organization, but the command and control, if you like, my kind of go-to every week is a dashboard view of the telemetry of the website, effectively, who's coming in, how they're shopping, where the pinch points are, right? And that really then is used to govern, a curiosity, I guess. Hey, this looks like there's a particular problem here. Team, let's go look at it. How might we solve these problems and these points of friction? And you chip away with it. It's not an exact science, right? We use lots of tools for A/B testing, and I have an opinion on that. Those results are always good at the beginning, and they normalize over time. But I kind of use A/B testing to make sure we do no harm in that regard. You don't want to make things worse, but you certainly look to make them better. But the go-to command and control of that is, obviously, I've got a structured domain, So we sort of set ourselves up to have experts on particular parts of the website as opposed to all of the website. We have domain teams that support those product managers in terms of engineering. And then, we go after, the key metrics or the web vitals, if you like, speed, performance, experience. And then we instrument all of that. And then the output of all of that is the weekly KPIs that then say, these are the things you got right and these are the things you got wrong. But we always measure that in a couple of different variables. We track that performance kind of at a 13-week trend, but we always draw a point in time for week, month, quarter, year. And we're always, comparing ourselves to the past to make sure that we can build for the future. And so far, so good. Seems to be working. So.
Now, one big development you've been working on recently that you guys actually got in contact and said you'd love to talk about, and I'd love you to talk about it too, is you've been building an AI-powered chat for the website, which everyone's talking about, the concept. Not many are actually delivering it. So how did you decide you were going to commit to doing it? And then any tips or advice or your experience that we can all learn from, not being too cheeky.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. I knew from, before I came here, whenever you join a new organization, you go and kick the tires, right? And in this case, one of the first things I did was kind of interact with the website and see how it performed, how it, against my own expectations, minus any telemetry, if you like. But one of the obvious things is, being able to interact via a chat agent, right? And it was apparent to me, I guess, in early 2024 that, we were lacking some power there in terms of what the agents could do primarily and how they could better serve the customers. But then what the customers could actually see on the other side of that was not great. It was kind of, I don't want to be disrespectful. It was kind of, basic, right? So you could chat with an agent, you could ask questions that agent would get back to you and try and answer the best questions for you. But in a world whereby we have virtual assistants, right? There's a lot of workflow type questions that could be, from a customer's point of view, where's my order? Where's my stuff, right? We knew we could actually solve those problems because we actually have, pretty robust technology and a good back end. And through the use of abstraction and APIs, we can go and hit all of that data for customers so that really we can get the chat agents out of the things that are really time sucks, right? Where's my thing? Can you help me look for this? And really into things like proactive selling, which has been a kind of a really interesting outcome. My going in strategy was I want a tool that helps or gives, I think the original pitch was give our chat agents superpowers, right? So they can be more efficient with the customers and get, for the right reason, get the customer in and out as fast as possible because, that's great for our agent and it's great for the customer, right? What we did do is with the platform that we put in was we established a path with virtual assistants. So we get all of that workflow thing out the way. On the agent side, we were able to use generative AI to better serve customers. So now when you come into an agent, from the agent's experience perspective, when you come in to have a chat engagement, what the agent actually sees the minute that question comes in from a customer is a generative response with an option to flip that generative response in real time to any language in the world.
Wow.
Right. So we have a global footprint. We do see a lot of traffic from all over the world. But really what we're talking about is, Canadian French or Spanish, South America, as well as the US, right? Previously, we couldn't do that, right? We get on the fly translations, we get generative responses. And I remember sitting down with the chat team and talking to them and showing them the tools and what was in the market. And we went through a sort of strong vetting process for the platform that we were going to move to. When we flashed up the AI module, it was curious to them, but the look on the face was more akin to no chance. I'm not going to use that, right? But since we've been live now, and we've been live for about 5 months, 64% of every chat that an agent takes, the agent is using a generative response in some form of fashion, which is allowing us to serve customers much faster. It allows us to actually handle 4 or 5 chats at a time as opposed to 1 or 2 previously. Our agent efficiency rate has just gone stratospheric, right, for want of a better phrase. So it's really working well for the agent. We're still kind of in the implementation phase. So as you can imagine, with generative technologies, there's a tax on implementation, and there's a tax on being able to use the tool and gaining confidence. So we do have agentic AI type capabilities, but we are testing those today. So that will help the agent best serve a customer. So today, if we go through this kind of vanilla type of questions of where's my thing, where's my stuff, and the customer can either self-serve or self-select, and or we can pass that to an agent. And today, we can give the customer a fast response. Tomorrow, if we futurecast, we'll be able to handle those requests in seconds. And we, as a business, we'll have a decision to make as to whether we want to make agentic technology customer facing. At the moment, that's not a path I'm taking, and the reason for that is you just don't know. The technology is moving so fast. People talk about horror stories around hallucinations and things like this of that nature. I'm still firmly in the camp of I want my customers and my agents to have the best possible experience, and AI can help with that. But Partstown prides itself on white glove kind of service, right? It's something we're really proud of. We like a human in the system, and that'll probably continue, I would imagine. But the technology itself is going to allow us within seconds to get into the heart of every single data point that we have as a business. And we have well over 100 different data repositories as an organization. And that agent will have the superpower to be able to reference all of the ones that matter in the context of a chat, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. Game changing, in fact.
I mean, your business, with the number of SKUs, the complexity, you need the right part to go in the right dishwasher and so on and so forth. It's like, well, obviously AI could be massively helpful in the scenario you've outlined, because there's all that complexity of how the products all fit together. But there's also, you kind of go, oh, but God, your data would have to be amazing. So it's almost like the perfect case study, but also the most difficult case study.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard, but that's kind of where agentic will help, because it'll be able to orchestrate and aggregate over some of those kind of sources. But you're right. We do things today on our website, and we have features like serial number lookup, which sounds kind of straightforward. Make, model, serial number, and we'll return a result. But I know just for one of our manufacturers, those permutations are numbered in the billions. Right, if you look at the universe of a model, right, the parts that go into that model can number the hundreds, but then that model, those parts are supported across maybe 20 or 30 different models, and it gets very big, very fast in terms of computational storage and then computational power. It's all super exciting to me. It's I don't want to be too nerdy about it, but it's a very challenging space but it's very cool to solve some of these problems.
Definitely, especially when you're getting the team on side at the same time as well. But the other thing which often strikes me with a B2B e-commerce business in particular is that the B2C customers tend to be pretty much the same for a brand. They've got the same needs, the same buying volumes. They tend to be quite similar. But when it comes to a B2B e-commerce business, and I would assume this is definitely the case for Partstown, if you can use assume and definitely in the same sentence, but you must have like the local electrician coming on to buy parts. But then you've got a small group of restaurants, and then you've got massive national chains coming on. So you've got very different customer types. How do you feed that into all that product management activity that you're doing? Do you have kind of like different avatars, different personas, different pieces? How do you manage that?
Yeah, we have kind of 5 main segments, I guess. The one I'll deal with very quickly is our guest segment there. So people who come to the website, they don't really want to create a relationship with us on our account, and they'll kind of come in, transact, and move on. We have an independent segment, which is those, smaller concerns, somebody that may own a restaurant or 2 or 3. And then we move into our chains segment, which is, kind of the world's most famous restaurant brands that you could probably imagine as some of our best customers. We have an institution segment as well, which is kind of think about government entities type thing. So we serve all of those very differently. For our chains companies, we have actual microsites, and for very few of the independents, and really we're curating the catalog, we're curating the price, and we're curating the content for those. And we have about 170 of those.
Wow.
But our mainline site, it's everybody's welcome, right? Everybody's welcome. And once those customers do log in, we're giving them their custom prices if they do have customer prices. We're giving them, the special treatment that they need, right, on an individualized basis. And some of the upcoming investments that we're making are all around personalization and curating the experience, so that, one of the more recent advantages that we've brought to task on the homepage, for example, is we've added a utility which brings in all of their order and history content on a dashboard view just when you land, so that we don't have to have the customer go troll for that information. And the utilization and utility has just exploded in terms of usability metrics. So how many people use it, how many people click through. Those customers are now feel more engaged, so they convert to a higher click. It's always output. If you fix the inputs, the outputs look after themselves. And it's just slowly working through those.
E-commerce Master Plan is supported by some of the greatest companies in the e-commerce sector. Here's a reminder of who they are.
Have you yet downloaded our ebook? To celebrate reaching episode 500, we've created an epic e-commerce success-focused ebook for you, packed with 500 top tips about how to make your e-commerce store more profitable, featuring the advice of many, many past guests alongside industry experts and many of you as well, our listeners. I've checked every single tip and organised the whole thing into sections for you, making it super easy to dip in and dip out and take inspiration as and when you need it. This ebook needs to be sat on your desktop or even printed and sat on your desk. Download your free copy right now at ecmp.info/ebook. Get 2024's most valuable e-commerce ebook now, ecmp.info/ebook.
It's time for the top tips round.
I love this section because it gives me and our listeners some really quick ideas for taking our businesses to the next level. Paul, are you ready for the top tips?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, the book top tip. If everyone listening to this podcast agreed to take Friday off and read a book to make their business better, which book would you recommend?
It's a really hard read, and it took me a long time to get through it. Daniel Hanneman's Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yes, and if you get the paperback, if I'm right in thinking, the text is annoyingly small, just to compound the hardness of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm sure there's lots of educated people who really enjoy reading, but for me, it was, I'm not ashamed to say, I think it took 2 years to get through the thing, but it was a really, really insightful and, certainly prompted some thoughts in my mind. So yeah, I guess that's a good book does that.
It certainly does. And you're ahead of me. For me, it's on the shelf. And I watched a documentary he was on BBC 4 and have kind of counted that. So you're doing better than me. Maybe I should actually start it. We'll see. The traffic top tip. Which marketing method do you either prize above all others or think doesn't get the press it deserves?
Organic traffic. It papers over numerous cracks in your website's performance. And nearly everywhere I go or where I've been, people don't put enough, time and effort towards it. It's not something that you're going to look at every day and say, hey, doesn't this homepage look great? Doesn't this landing page look amazing? Just make your website fast. Well, two tips, I guess. Make your website fast and make sure you can instrument it so you understand what's happening actually when people get there.
I'm guessing the SEO team are probably the marketing team you and your team work most closely with or have most involvement with. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. I was actually in an SEO meeting about an hour ago. So.
And I imagine they very much like the fact you're on board.
Yeah. We I mean, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but we were talking about our new technology and how we're going to make our application headless over time and what the SEO requirements were based on our technical audit in and of itself. So they were very happy that we were listening to them. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Bring them in early on a project. That's always 101 to keep the SEO team happy. Okay. Before I tangent, the tool top tip may be a collaboration tool, a social media plugin, a phone app, or just a way of working. Is there a cool little tool you use that makes you and your team more efficient from day to day?
Yeah, I'd say the communication lifeblood for my organization and any organization that I've kind of been at is Slack, really. It's getting a bit old now in the tooth, but it's the go-to. No idea how that's going to be disrupted with generative AI technologies coming up very fast, right? But there's a lot of, I guess personally and in the organization, we're trying to figure out how we get generative tools into the hands of our associates here. ChatGPT, Gemini, those type of, Microsoft's Copilot. We're figuring out which is the right one, but we do plan on, unleashing that on the masses at some point, because we believe, dearly that, for us to win in our technologies, bets that we make, that all of our associates, are advocates as well.
Oh, definitely. Okay, carbon top tip. What's your favorite way to reduce the carbon footprint of an e-commerce store?
I guess for us, it's really about the packaging. We have a wonderful warehouse here that's kind of super efficient. I should give a shameless plug for our auto store technology. So we have a way of navigating and moving products around our warehouse in a most efficient way, picked by robots. And the genesis of that is not necessarily, well, of course, it drives efficiency with the pick itself, but it's really, reducing the amount of space required for those types of products, or if they were stored otherwise. And then the other one is obviously just the fact that we can cut our own boxes down to the size that will actually make sense for the products that go in them, so we can ship them, out the same day.
It is strange how much air is a problem when it comes to reducing carbon footprint. The empty space in the warehouse, the empty space in the boxes, it's almost like a war on air at times.
Yeah, it is. I think, sometimes the air wins, and you just got to be relentless with it and just keep going and assume that there's always more efficiencies that you can gain.
In every front, let's be honest. Paul, thank you so much for being on the show. Before you say goodbye, could you please let the listeners know where they can find you and your business, please?
Yeah, people can find us on partstown.com, .mx if you're in Mexico, and .ca if you're in Canada. They can find us on Instagram and LinkedIn as well.
Brilliant. Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fascinating hearing from someone working in such a fascinating place even of the e-commerce world. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Lou.
How fascinating to get an insight into one specific area, I suppose, of the e-commerce space, which is sometimes what I really love about getting to talk to really big businesses is you get to speak to someone who's super zeroed in on one part of it. And I know some of you will be thinking, wow, that's mind-blowing. They just work on the website, not anything else. But it's really interesting to see the things which they are focused on. And despite being a huge business, the number one is something we should all be focused on, which is making our site faster, not unlocking any different tech than the rest of us have access to. So I thought that real zeroing in on how do we make the website work better? How do we look after those customers? I thought the clarity of understanding the customer segments that they have at Partstown, and then also how they're going about that AI chat piece. First off, dealing with I guess you could call them the pure operational stuff. Where is my parcel? Let's get that happening fast and going through to the customer and let the AI bot deal with that. And then not just unleashing it on the customer, but rather using for the more complicated stuff, for the more I'm trying to find this product to do this and so on and so forth, to be using the technology to make the lives of the agents easier. So the people who are managing the chat, in such a complex business especially, to give them those pre-written responses they can then tweak, or they can just simply send through to the customer, speeds things up so much. And as Paul said, it's enabling their agents to juggle 4 chats at the same time rather than 1, which is a game changer in terms of efficiency and, most importantly, in terms of customer happiness. I mean, we've all got frustrated staring at a chat, waiting for it to refresh. So if you can eliminate that, both by faster responses, eliminating the need for research and typing, but also in enabling each agent to deal with more chats at the same time. You're going to make customers a lot happier. So that was super interesting too. Now, you can get your hands on our notes from this episode, including those top tips and the links to what we've mentioned, by heading over to ecommercemasterplan.com. You can also use our direct to episode short links. Just put ecmp.info/the number of this episode into the URL bar and you'll be redirected straight to the right page. Once you get to the website, you can also add yourself to our email list so you don't miss out on any of the other things I share to help you improve your business. Now, if you liked this episode, then you should check out episode 534, which another big B2B e-commerce site in the food space came on to chat to me about what they're up to. It's Vegetarian Express, so they're selling actual food and ingredients rather than mechanical things. But it really does build on this episode and gives you a slightly different take on the world of B2B e-commerce selling to restaurants, etc. And if you want to hear more B2B content, head to the website, use the short link ecmp.info/B2B. Or if you want to hear more big business stories, then go to ecmp.info/big. Thank you so much for tuning into this and every episode that you do of the e-commerce master plan podcast. I bring you a new interview every week because I want to inspire and help e-commerce business owners like you to succeed and thrive with your businesses, including progressing along the path to net zero. So if you know someone this show can help, please tell them to listen to the e-commerce master plan podcast. Hey, have a great week and don't forget to keep optimizing.
Thank you for listening to the e-commerce master plan podcast. Find out more at ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast.
It's time to download our 500 top tips to make your e-commerce business more profitable ebook. Go to ecmp.info/ebook now.